And we are live. Guys, welcome into the Minnesota Gun Rights channel. I am Executive Director Ben Dorr, checking in from our headquarters here in snowy Northfield, Minnesota. And I'm joined tonight by our special guest, Representative Erik Mortensen. How you doing, Erik?
I'm doing so good. How you doing?
Not too bad at all. I'm gonna ask you about this. I'm curious what if your district has changed much with the redistricting stuff. I'm not sure how that's all going, but we'll talk about that in a minute, guys. Let us know where you're watching from. The breaking news tonight, and I thought it was only fitting to break it with you right here, Erik, on the live streams that Erik Mortensen has introduced constitutional carry in the Minnesota House. It's a bill that's passing all over the country. Simply says that if you are legal to carry a firearm, you can do it without begging for government permission, without having to pay, what do they call it, the Second Amendment tax. So that is House File 3033, if I'm remembering that correctly. Yep. House File 3033. So thank you very much for introducing that for us, Erik. And this is going to be a huge fight, I think.
Yeah, no, I think it is, and I think we're setting the table for the very near future here. When you talk to a lot of conservatives or just freedom-loving people, and sometimes, well, heck, a lot of the time you talk to them lately, and then they're kind of down in the dumps and they're angry and frustrated about where things are going. But I am just filled with optimism because I see the path that at least Minnesota's on, and the liberty movement that is just ballooning across the state. And I think we've got a very bright future ahead of us in Minnesota.
Heck yeah. And you've been leading this charge. I'll be totally honest. We don't have a lot of legislators come on this show. We don't invite a lot of legislators on this show, to be totally frank. A lot of people want to come on the show. We just don't let them because they're not leading the freedom fight. And that's what it is. You've been doing it since you got in there. You've pissed off a lot of people on the left, a lot of people on the right. The rhinos, not the grassroots. Grassroots love fighters for freedom. They love people like you who are actually doing the job that you were sent there to do. But it's the establishment rhino class. They don't like you very much. The Democrats sure as hell don't like you. The media doesn't like you at all. But what you said, we're paving the way here towards big victories in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that politicians don't like me, I just wear that as a badge of honor because I don't like them either. So that's fine by me. They can hate on me all they want.
Good company. You're in good company. You are on Minnesota Gun Rights show tonight, after all. Well, but it's like you said. I mean, Democrats. It's looking like Democrats are going to get their butts handed to them in November, just nationwide. Unless they do a massive course correction. And already we're seeing it from Tim Walz, right? All of his pictures, his recent selfies, he's not wearing a mask in any of his selfies anymore.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Oh, yeah. And he's giving all these shout outs to farmers. Oh, God bless our farmers. God bless our farmers. So here comes the pandering from the politicians. It's election year. And Tim Walz and the rest of these politicians are hoping that you just forget the fact that they forced you to lock down, that they forced you to shut your businesses down, that they're trying right now to pass major gun control bills, that they kill all the babies with your tax dollars, that they threw Lisa Hanson in jail, that they attacked freedom-loving Minnesotans, and now they're out there trying to act like he's one of the people. But so what Erik is doing here, I think what you're doing here right now is paving the way. It's very possible that Republicans take back control of the Minnesota House in November. It's definitely a possibility. Anything can happen, to be totally honest. And so introducing pro-gun bills like constitutional carry right now starts to help us build this groundswell of support going into 2023. So if Republicans take back control, there is a clear directive from the people: pass constitutional carry for the state of Minnesota. I think that's what's happening here.
Yeah, well, you bring up Walz and his mask. He came to the House floor about 2-3 weeks ago, and he brought his lemon squares with him. And I think you've seen this video because he approached me when I was sitting at my desk. I was shocked this guy came up to me because in 13 months that I've been at the Capitol, I've never even seen the man. And I've gone to his office. I've knocked on his door. I've called his office. Heck, I've even tried to take my Capitol badge, my key card, and try to use it to unlock his office door to see, will this key card get me into his office? And he's handing out these bars to all the other legislators. And of course, they take the bar. And what's the first thing they do? They take their mask off on the House floor and they're chowing away on their lemon bars. Yeah. Yeah, it's just insane. So, of course, I told him I wouldn't trust anything coming from you. And he was legitimately offended that I said something like that. But I don't trust the man. I don't know why people would. When you throw Lisa Hansen in jail, and I'm glad you brought that up. And I don't know if you've seen this, but she announced she's running for state senate.
Running for Senate. I saw that.
Yes,
I saw that.
Cannot wait.
That's fabulous. I mean, he was legitimately offended because people like Tim Walz don't spend 8 seconds walking around the hairy unwashed like you and me. He doesn't go out in public. He doesn't shake people's hands. He doesn't see how people are living, how they're struggling, what they need, what's going on. He just thinks he can show up on the House floor there with a pan of lemon bars, and I'm just your down home governor out here having a lemon bar. Like, just stop, Tim. You're only fooling the idiots. You're not fooling patriots. We all know what you did to us. We all know what you put us through during the lockdowns. We all know the businesses you annihilated, the people who committed suicide out of depression and because of the lockdowns and because of all of the pressure that was put on them. You did this to us, Tim, and your voters did this to us. Don't sit here and try to be this, I'm a down home governor. It's it's a joke.
And the destruction's not even over, right? I mean, a lot of this stuff is going to be lingering. The way he's decimated people's livelihoods, people are going to be suffering with that type of depression for a long time to come. And I guarantee the data will back this up as time goes by, that people are going to be struggling for a while. We're going to continue to see businesses go out of business. We're going to continue to see people with mental health issues. Suicide will continue to go up because some of these things, I mean, I've been a business owner. I sold mine about 4 years ago. But it is one of the most stressful and lonely things that you can possibly do when you feel like nobody understands the position you're in. And I am thankful that I sold my business before he was forcefully shutting businesses down, because I can't even imagine the amount of stress that puts on a business owner who's, just struggling to manage cash flow and make payroll every week.
But hey, you know what? We're all in this together.
That's exactly what he told me. That's what he said when I said,
you know what? If I had thought about that video before we went live here, I absolutely would have downloaded it and played it right here for everybody to see. You're going to come back on this show at some point in the future, and we're going to play that video for people. The Door Brothers, as I think everybody watching this video know, we work in a lot of different states. We fight for the Second Amendment in many places. We've passed a lot of pro-gun bills, stopped a lot of gun control. And in our years working with a lot of Second Amendment champions in places like Iowa and Wyoming and Ohio and Pennsylvania and others, we've never seen anybody do what you did, Erik, on the House floor. When you just looked at that governor who's a total piece of crap, and he told him exactly what you think and what the people think, that we don't trust you, and that you're a tyrant for throwing people in jail because they were trying to make a livelihood, make an income during, when he was sitting there annihilating their ability to put freaking food on the table. So that was a hell of a video to watch, and I'll play it another time for sure. But a lot of people in the comments saying crime will go down if we can pass constitutional carry, says Michelle. Bobby says, hell yeah, let's have it. That's exactly where we are right now. Now, I want to say this. There's a lot of different constitutional carry bills. There's all kinds of politicians out there who introduce pro-gun bills. Erik, you know this as well as I do.
Yep.
But this is the game that's been played in St. Paul for a long, long time. Legislators going back a decade and longer will introduce pro-gun bills like constitutional carry. And Eric, yours isn't the only one. There's a lot of other constitutional carry bills that have already been introduced, but they'll introduce these pro-gun bills and they'll get all of their friends to come and they'll all sign on. I'm a co-sponsor, co-sponsor,
Yeah.
co-sponsor, co-sponsor.
Yeah.
So that when gun owners call them and say, pass constitutional carry, are you pro Second Amendment? When they're out there running for re-election and they want to get votes and people ask, where do you stand on Second Amendment rights? They say, well, of course I'm pro-gun. I'm the sponsor or the co-sponsor of constitutional carry.
Yeah.
And gun owners are supposed to be fooled by that. But the reality is they introduce these pro-gun bills to put their name on them, and they have zero intention of ever passing this legislation and making it become law because it's great campaign fodder.
Yeah. So I want to hit on that because, I've heard that same stuff for years and years. And I think your average listener hears that and goes, okay, yeah, I guess I can believe that. But it's when you meet these politicians, everybody says, well, he's such a nice guy. And they're all nice people. Okay. They're politicians. They're nice people. They win popularity contests in November. But I can tell you, as a legislator, it's very, very simple. It's not difficult to write a bill and get it introduced. That's very easy. It's much harder to do the work to actually build the grassroots movement, to actually get some traction with it and to force the politicians' hands to do something about it. That is very, very different. And you hit on something, Ben, that I just had to tell people this because this literally happened to me in the last, 7, 8 months. So I got elected in November 2020, right? I go to this Liberty Legislator Convention down in Florida. And there were two other Liberty legislators at that time anyway, who were part of this coalition. And one of them was Jeremy Munson. And Munson says to me, he says, oh man, it's so great in the legislature. Let's say a bill gets a bunch of traction and the people really like the bill. He said, you can go to the revisers and tell them, make me a carbon copy of that bill. And then he said, then you can go tell people that I'm the chief author of that bill and people will eat it up. And I'm like, that is the most disgusting thing I've heard. But that is exactly what they did to me when they kicked me out of caucus. And 4 months after I had my Never Again bill, they kicked me out of caucus. They tried to copy my bill, but they watered it down. And then they named it the exact same thing, the Never Again bill. So he literally did to me what he told me about in November of 2020. That's the lengths these guys will go to try to build some pseudo grassroots movement and try to leech off of other people's work.
Yeah. It's what for everybody watching this and everybody who's going to watch, there's a lot of people are going to see this video when we're done here. You have to really look at the legislators and figure out what they've actually done. What have they done for you? What did they do when they had the majority? Right?
Yeah.
Eric, you've never experienced a Republican majority yet. You've been in the minority since you got into office, but many, many, many Republicans up there in St. Paul, in the House, were in the majorities that we had in 2017 and 2018, for example, when we had Republican majorities in the Senate as well. And I remember very well how those politicians didn't lift a damn finger to pass any pro-freedom, pro-Second Amendment legislation when they had the votes to pass it. Now that they're in the minority, now that they don't have the votes to pass it, just like you're talking about here, there's all these people introducing these great freedom bills.
Exactly.
And they're sitting there going, well, we would pass the bills, but it's those Democrats over there. They have the votes. We don't have the votes. If only you will go out and vote for the Republicans in the elections, then when we have the majority back, then we'll pass constitutional carry. Then we'll pass stand your ground law. Then we'll pass the Second Amendment Preservation Act. Just give us the majority back. Well, then they get the majority, and what do? They just
piss it away.
They piss it away. They don't pass any of the bills. They make deals with the Democrats. They become a bunch of Mitt Romney, Liz Cheney, rhino sellouts. And I just have a feeling that when you're still there in 2023, if Republicans get the majority back, I got a feeling you're going to be lobbing the same bombs on behalf of the voters, on behalf of gun owners and the people in the majority as you are in the minority.
Oh, believe me, that is I have dreams about that because I think we're going to get the House back. And
I
um,
believe you.
yeah, because what you've seen, what you described is Republicans, when they're in the minority, are a bunch of tough guys, right? They're forcing these votes on these bills and they're bringing up amendments and they're acting all tough. And I always kind of pick on Jim Nash because he's notorious on the floor for forcing votes on good gun bills when they're in the minority, when they know the Democrats are going to vote them down. But as soon as they're in the majority, they are just crickets. They don't say
Oh,
anything. They don't
yeah.
bring them up for votes. And I got to hit this because when they're in the minority, their voting records look pretty damn good. They actually look like they're conservatives out there
Right.
because they're saying no to what the Democrats want to do. When they're in the majority, their voting records are horrible. And I have to bring this up because right now I'm supposed to be at this awards banquet for this organization.
Oh, I gotta turn my cell phone. I was blowing up over
I'll
here.
check mine. All right.
You're right.
So literally right now, I'm supposed to be at this awards banquet for this amazing organization. Like, if I don't want anybody to mistake this. This organization is called Legislative Evaluation Assembly, LEA, and they have a very difficult scorecard. They scorecard the Minnesota State Legislature every year, and I'm proud to be one of their honorees with one of the highest, scorecard scores on their scorecard. So I love the organization. I tell people about their scorecard all the time. To me, it's one of two scorecards I actually refer people to because it's a tough scorecard. They're not afraid to, give Republicans a bad rating if they voted badly.
Good.
But I'm not there, and for some reason, the organizers think I'm not there because of the weather. Although I'd never told them that. It hit me yesterday as I was thinking about going to this awards banquet to receive an award for following my constitutional oath of office, because that's how they scorecard their votes. Are they constitutional votes or not? And it just felt gross to me to go receive an award for doing what I think is the bare minimum. Like, the bare minimum is you go vote in alignment with your values and your constitutional oath of office. But there are 6 other legislators in Vadnais Heights right now who are gleefully accepting an award for doing what I would say their job. And I'm not doing this to get some award. I'm honored to be on that scorecard and as one of the honorees. I'm proud of that. I'm way proud of it. But I'm not interested in awards. I'm interested in actually preserving liberty and getting big policy wins for the people of Minnesota.
Sure. I mean, the right. It's more of a test of the legislators themselves than it is of the organizations. I mean, the politicians are usually extremely excited to be recognized by any organization, any score. I mean, hold out a plaque with Paul Kazelka's name on it. He will trip over his own 2 feet and face plant into the wall trying to get to that plaque. I mean, that is the way politicians are. It's like, oh my God, can I get a selfie holding a plaque? Like, I mean, if it's made out of like fake glass, it's just like, oh. But what you said is exactly correct. These people should be a lot more concentrated, a lot more focused on just fighting on behalf of what they believe in, voting correct. You don't give awards to people who just like show up for the job. Like, that's supposed to be the bare minimum.
I agree.
They
Voting.
should be going above and beyond, or they should at least be doing the bare minimum job. And these legislators aren't doing that crap up there. They're just not. I know you know it. And that's, again, I'll just say it again. I mean, that's why you're on this show right now, because there's a lot of other politicians who want to be on here, but the answer is simply no. You've never fought for the people. You've never advanced any freedom legislation. You've never fought for stand your ground or constitutional carry or the Second Amendment Preservation Act. You don't make any public statements against gun control. Like, you people just suck. You mentioned tiny biceps Jim Nash. That guy, a decade we've been like dealing with this guy, but in 2017, again, like you said, he always introduces pro-gun bills, and he loves to get up there in the minority and rail. We need stand your ground. We need constitutional carry.
Yep.
But when it comes down to it, when they had the majority in 2017, he introduced Stand Your Ground then too.
Yeah.
But he had no intention of passing that bill, no intention
Mhm.
at all. And Minnesota gun rights piled on with everything we had, got it past the House Public Safety Committee, and got it into Jim Nash's Rules Committee. He was on the Rules Committee at that time, and he was just, I mean, his teeth were falling out. He's grinding his teeth so hard. He didn't want to push his own Stand Your Ground bill, didn't lift a finger to push his own freaking Stand Your Ground bill. And now here we are. That was 5 years ago. Here
Yeah.
we
Well,
are.
so the people who are out there wondering, well, what on earth are you guys talking about? What else can they do other than drop a bill and hope and pray it goes somewhere? Well, I've got an example for you. Like your audience will be the first to know this. I was just working on this afternoon, and I would love to do this for like every single issue, but there's not enough time to do it. Um, but what you can do, there are procedural things that can be done to force action on these bills.
Mhm.
And to me, one of the most important things going on right now are these vaccine mandates. So this is a great example of what could be done, and this is literally what I'm doing later this week. I'm filing an amendment to a frontline worker pay bill to stop vaccine mandates. I know I have 2 Democrats in the House on record saying they're against vaccine mandates. Well, we only need 2 more Democrats to actually stop these things. So I'm going to force that vote on Thursday, and we're going to make these people either they could kind of block the bill. They'll try to kill this and all using all sorts of procedural ways, but that's how you can actually do something beyond just introducing a bill. You can force these votes. And what really kind of pisses me off, to be honest, is we're 4 weeks in the legislature and the Republican controlled Senate has done nothing with vaccine mandates. They haven't heard any bills. They haven't had any votes. There's a bunch of bills that have been introduced, right? That's the easy work, but nobody has forced the issue in the Senate. So the fact that I'm going to do it in the House this week, when it's a tough road. We'll see if we can get those 2 Democrats on board, or they'll more than likely use some procedures to try to block me from doing it.
Sure.
But it can be done. Like you can go to war on these issues, but you have to be willing to, pick up your whatever, your axe and go. But most of these guys just are not willing to do it. They don't want to do anything controversial.
Well, I don't think a lot of people realize that the whole process of a state legislature is designed to help the state legislature, right? And none of it's set up to make it easy for people like Mickey or Jonathan or Marsha or Dana or Ted who are watching this right now. It's not designed to be easy for you to follow. The bills aren't designed to be easy to read. The procedure isn't designed to be easy to understand and to have kind of a rudimentary grasp of. It's all meant to facilitate the politicians who run the whole place. So it's very, very easy for politicians to stand up there and put on a really good show.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
Minnesota gun rights, for years, we've specialized at basically pointing out that's a sham, that's a scam, that's a lie,
Yes.
that's fake, that's a nice acting job, and then this is real. What you're doing is real. You've paid a very real price for the fights that you've made in St. Paul. A lot of people don't like you. A lot of people in the grassroots love you. The political establishment doesn't like you. And that's how you know. And when you're standing up there, you're forcing the votes on these things. You're standing against your own caucus half the time, against the Republicans, the rhinos, pushing these freedom bills. And they're just putting on this show so they can tell gun owners. I mean, that's what half the speeches on the
Yeah.
House floor are all about, right? It's all
Yeah.
about, because it's all recorded. So they got their Madam Speaker, stand your grounds, great, and you Democrats are bad. Thank you. And then they take that video and they throw it on their campaign page and they put it in their campaign literature and they send it out in their emails. And they go, look at me standing on the House floor fighting for you, when it was all a great big damn show. It was a show.
So I've talked about this a lot because it is all scripted. It's rehearsed when they're doing their caucus meetings. They know we have to file amendments 24 hours in advance. before we go to the floor. So everybody knows what's going to happen. The Democrats have their plans literally scripted as to who's going to raise what motion. And then the Republicans have their things pre-planned. And what I've been trying to do is come in and throw the little political grenades on the House floor and surprise people, because when it's so scripted and you're able to throw these little surprises, these surprise motions where you can, since they've got these 24-hour rules, that's where you can really blow things up, and politically speaking, and put things into a tizzy and confuse people. So,
right.
But it is
so you can use procedure to advance freedom, while they're trying to use procedure to crush freedom.
Yes.
And what we've been saying all along here is that the people who should be fighting for freedom are not using those procedural motions. They're not doing the stuff they could do. And instead, when gun owners call them and say, "What the hell are you doing? Why aren't you fighting for this? Why aren't you voting? Why aren't you doing this or that or the other thing?" And they go, "Oh, I can't do it because Democrats are in charge." They know full well what procedural motions are available to them, and they're just not telling you. That's how
I got to say to Dave Peterson, I could get behind that bill too, Dave. I'll let you read that comment. But so the fact that it's so highly scripted, this is what shocked me. So I've never worn a mask on the floor, never worn a mask in the state office building. I can say for a fact, I'm the only state representative that can say that until the next election anyway, or currently serving state rep. But the fact it's so scripted, so the speaker this year said, okay, if you come to the House floor without a mask, you're not allowed to speak. Okay, well, that's fine. So I'd show up to the floor without a mask. And you look around the floor, and since it's so scripted, the Republicans know which ones are going to speak and which ones aren't. And pretty much every floor session has just been what they call a paper push, where they're just advancing the bills. They last 20, 30 minutes, no time at all. Next to nobody even speaks. But every single Republican would wear that freaking mask on the floor, even though they know they don't plan on saying anything. So the threat of taking their voice away is moot, because they're not even going to use their voice. They have no plan to use their voice, but they still put that stupid mask on their face until about 2 weeks ago. Paul Novotny, I wish he would have done it at his desk. Instead, he did it in this little alcove behind me. He had no mask on, and the Sergeant Varm said, hey, if you don't put one on, you can't speak. And so about 10 minutes later or so, he got up and he left the floor. But at least he didn't have a mask on. And then
nice job, Paul.
Yes, thank you, Paul. Then Mike Sundin, a Democrat. I look across the House floor because he sits over here if I'm on the floor, and I see Mike Sundin's got a mask dangling from his ear, but not over his mouth. So I took a picture of him because I'm like, well, that counts in my book. You're not wearing a mask on the floor. Yeah. So those two guys eventually, didn't wear a mask either. And then a week later, the whole thing crumbled, and she killed the mask mandate.
There you go. I mean, we're harping on Republicans quite a bit, but the reason that is we know that the vast majority, maybe exclusively Democrats as a whole, suck. They're not good on virtually any of these issues. We used to have some pretty good ones in there. We have less and less of them as time goes on. And so the way we defeat leftist policy, the way we defeat Joe Biden's agenda, the way we defeat these gun control bills that we were just talking about in our last broadcast a couple of hours ago, the way we defeat all, the mandates, all of these things is by the Republican Party, which is the only other party that's worth anything in politics, right? You have your Democrats and you have your Republicans. We need the Republicans to act like Republicans. We need them to get up there and roar like lions and fight against the left with everything they've got. If we did that, if the GOP did that in Minnesota, we would see so much more offensive action on freedom, and Democrats being on defense. They're having to, stop us from advancing too far. Like, this is why we harp on the Republicans, because we're never going to get, you're never going to get, Eric, Speaker Hortman to do something that she doesn't want to do, right? She doesn't cater to freedom-loving patriots. She doesn't cater to normal, right-wing, everyday Americans. She caters to psychotic leftist psychos. So we don't sit here and scream about Melissa Hortman because she's not going to listen to us. It's the Republicans who have the power to fight back, who aren't fighting back, who are the ones that we need to pound on all the time to make sure they have a fire lit under their backsides to push forward on these issues.
Yeah, thank you. Because I mean, what they say about me, the Republicans, is they'll say, well, he's divisive, he's not a team player. And let me tell you, team player is code for the establishment, meaning he doesn't do what we tell him to do. That's what they want when they say team players. When they want, team players, it's do as you're told. And when I see, I'm all for unity. That's frankly what I'm trying to do, is unify the party as well and unify Republican legislators. But right now, the vast majority of them are unified around doing nothing. They do nothing. They fight for nothing. So yeah, I am trying to divide that up and break that down and bring them back over to a side where we're actually fighting for, these liberties that they all claim to support at campaign season.
Well, that's you made a really good point there, because what you are doing, what you have done, is unify the base, right? Gun owners, patriots, blue collar Americans, Trump voters, and so many others are all sitting here going, yes, we like what Representative Mortensen is doing. We need more of this. And so when the politicians are sitting there going, you're divisive, what you said is exactly true. They have unity amongst themselves. So these handful of legislators, they're all unified in doing precisely nothing, like you said. And on the other hand, you've got you, who's unified with tens and tens and tens of thousands of gun owners, pro-lifers, patriots, Trump supporters, medical freedom people all across the state are going, oh, we like this type of representation. So what needs to happen for real victory, for freedom to happen, is these politicians who are unified in their doing nothing need to come over to where you are and unify as a party with the grassroots. And the GOP has refused to do that for years. And if they did that, there would be real unity, real power behind the grassroots, behind the people, behind parties, to advance Second Amendment freedoms, all these other freedom bills. But the legislature, these politicians, are just dead damn set on doing nothing. They don't want to ally themselves with the grassroots. That's why when 10,000 people were standing, and you were there in front of Governor Walz's mansion saying, end the lockdown, we're starving over here. What was it? We had Republican state reps sending out emails saying, COVID's not a winning issue for us as Republicans. Let's not talk about COVID. The Republican Party as a whole was saying, let's pretend that 10,000 of these voters who are right-wing voters are not in front of the governor's mansion because COVID's a losing issue. If they had fought with the people, we would have been out of this disaster long before now. And again, we could be moving the ball forward instead of being in this holding pattern of introducing pro-gun bills and having to stop gun control, and we're just like constantly banging fists.
Yeah, I mean, they're utter cowards largely. I mean, that's what's lacking in the Capitol. Political courage is what lacks, and then they're politicians for a reason. Their chief concern is getting reelected, and my chief concern is losing our country. So that's what dictates my actions. And I have to say, somebody just chimed in here, Nathan Wessenberg, and that's great timing, because one of the things that I've been super proud of, because it is tough when you're in the minority, it's tough to get over that hump of Democrats controlling the House. There's no doubt about that. But there's other ways to help this liberty movement and to grow this this grassroots effort that we really do need in order to achieve a lot of these things. So trying to find people who are willing to run for office has been one of my goals, in addition to everything I'm doing in the legislature. And it's been so rewarding to find, there's going to be, like, depending on how things flesh out, 12 to 15 people that are going to be running for office, largely against bad Republicans. So we're going to see an upgrade to some extent of some of the Republicans in the Capitol, because if they don't want to come along, either willingly or kicking or screaming, then it's time to find some new ones. So I think Nathan's going to be an exciting guy to watch up there in the Little Falls area.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so if you're thinking about running, or if you are running, be sure to get in touch with us. We'd love to have you fill out our Minnesota Gun Rights candidate questionnaire. Yeah, Nathan Westenberg says, I will champion constitutional carry in the Senate next year, speaking for the people. Boy, we could really use a total political upset in this state. The GOP in Minnesota needs an enema in a major way. The people who have been running the party for a long time. And again, we're a 501c4 nonprofit. We are totally nonpartisan. As you can tell, we're equal opportunity ass beaters when it comes to Republicans and Democrats. But if Republicans are supposed to be the champions of freedom, we need a total enema. That's kind of a nasty word, but that's what we need. The party leadership has been corrupt for a long time. The people at the top, the Paul Gazelkas, the Kurt Doubts, have been garbage.
Yeah.
You and I could sit here and talk about for hours the bills they've passed, the crap they've funded, the ways in which they've screwed their own base of voters. We need new leadership in the Republican Party in a major way.
Yeah, well, and so I'm happy to take some shots at Democrats here because I told you before we officially went live, and you hadn't heard of this yet, and some people who are watching maybe have because I've talked about it a couple times. The Crown Act. You ready for the Crown Act?
Tell me about it. What is this?
I can't help it. I just can't even take it serious. So, the very first week of session is a good indicator for, well, what are the Democrats' agenda in the House, right? I mean, I'm on these committees. I'm in the Judiciary Committee. I call it the Critical Race Theory Committee because the chair is just like ramming this notion that your color of your skin is the most important thing that matters. And so I call it the Critical Race Theory Committee. So in the first week committee meeting, they bring up this bill and it's House File 1315, but they kept calling it the Crown Act. And all through committee, I'm like, what in God's name is the Crown Act? Because all this bill, it's a one sentence bill. And the bill just seeks to define race. And they want to put this in the Human Rights Act. And here's their definition of race to give you some context. And I'm going off memory here, so I'm going to mix up a word or two, but it says race. Race is inclusive of all attributes of race. Okay, and I want to pause there because that's not how you define words for the people out there wondering, does that make any sense? That's like saying, a coin is the definition of a coin is things that are inclusive of the attributes of coins. Like, well, what are the attributes of coins, for God's sake? It makes no sense.
That was the whole bill?
Well, no, that's that. I'll put a comma in there. So all things inclusive, they got to get the inclusive word of race. And then it says including hair colors, hairstyles, including braids, dreadlocks, and twists or something like that. That's it. That's the bill. And they kept calling it the Crown Act. And finally, I had to look it up after the committee meeting to see what on earth are we talking about here. And I was shocked. I was the only Republican, the only person on the committee to say, what are we doing? This definition doesn't make any sense. It's not how you define words. And if you're essentially going to define race with this vague language of everything, including hair color and styles, like, I mean, the only part that's specific is they're talking about hair. So like, if I grow my hair out and like put it in twists, did I change my race? I mean, people change their genders apparently now, so they're setting that precedent. So I Google Crown, and Crown Act stands for creating a respectful and open world for natural hair.
Come on. No.
That was the Democrats' top priority in the Critical Race Theory Committee, aka the Judiciary Committee. The first week of session. Yeah, I'm gonna say it again. Creating a respectful and open world for natural hair. That was their priority. They had 45 minutes of testifiers saying how one person said, well, when I get up and I don't have time to do my hair, my coworkers say you look tired today. And she's like, I don't want that to happen. And I'm thinking, this law is not going to stop you from a coworker saying you look, like you could have combed your hair this morning.
This bill has 19 co-authors on it.
Yeah, and so we have crime surging across Minneapolis and St. Paul. Inflation is running rampant. Vaccine mandates pushing people out of jobs. We have a healthcare worker shortage going on. We have an $8 billion surplus that's like we should be returning to the taxpayers. There's like big important shit going on. But no. The Democrats are worried about creating an open world for natural hair.
You're not even kidding. Race is inclusive of traits associated with race, including but not limited to hair texture and hairstyles, such as braids, locks, and twists.
Yeah,
I
that's
can't
the whole
even.
bill.
I can't. I mean, Democrats are the biggest racists on the planet. Yeah, these are the ones who are obsessed by this stuff. Everyday Americans are not. We have no problems with those types of things. It's always the left who sits here and makes up in. I, I, I mean, it's a legitimate question. If I decide to do twists and do what do you want to call it, an African? Is that what are you even talking about? You people are nuts. You people are nuts. Absolutely out of your minds. They're the biggest racists. And honestly, with stuff like this going on, it's never been easier to be a real Republican. Like it's never been easier. Like it's not like they brought forward a whole bunch of legislation that was really moderate, really centrist, and like some Republicans kind of liked it, and so the debates get kind of dicey because you're kind of crossing over, like you're using some of their talking points or using some of yours, and you really have to hash out the finer points of legislation. The Democrats are just pushing crap like this. It's never been easier as a Republican to stand up and go, this is fucking nuts.
Yeah,
This is crazy. You people are crazy.
The number of bills that come before that committee that flat out say in the legislation, in the language, that if your skin is a certain color, the law should treat you differently. Now, that to me is like the very definition of discrimination.
Yes.
The law should not discriminate based on how anybody looks. Now, if hair discrimination is a real problem, which I don't, nobody has ever contacted me and said, please, Representative Mortensen, do something about hair discrimination. But I guess I should say, I don't support any discrimination of any kind whatsoever. But come on, hair discrimination.
People are crazy. No. And this is why we're pushing so hard for these pro-gun bills, because what it all boils down to is our government is totally off its rocker. They're insane. They're tyrannical. Like you said, there's so much going on in our state. People need help in a major way, or at least if not help, they need government to get off their freaking necks and let them live their lives and make their own income and run their businesses as they see fit, and get rid of the regulation and cut down on the taxes that are choking us to death. I mean, I live in a little 2-bedroom, 2-bath townhouse, and it's a tiny little thing. It's not very big at all. And our heating bill was nearly $400 this last month. It was twice as much as it was the year before. I don't need government help. We need the government to get off our freaking necks and stop stomping us into oblivion. And instead, they're pushing crap like this. And that's why your constitutional carry bill is so important, because the more we can free up the citizenry's ability to carry a firearm, to protect themselves. That's why you've authored Stand Your Ground law as well, to give people the freedoms to defend themselves, the ability to carry a firearm without a permit. It's a massive rollback of tyrannical laws that we currently have on the books right now, because the government will not protect us. The police can't protect us. We saw what happened during the riots and the looting. They burned the police precincts. The leftist chiefs and the mayors demanded that the police departments retreat and run away. People were calling the cops, help, help, my neighborhood's burning, my neighborhood's burning. Nobody came to their aid. That's why bills like you're introducing here are common sense. They're constitutional. They'll protect innocent people, black, white, red, doesn't matter. Only the left cares about those things, but it will protect everybody, give everybody that freedom. So again, thank you for introducing House File 3033, constitutional carry, and for all the rest of the stuff you're fighting for up there. It's desperately, desperately needed.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you having me on, and I think every time we do this, we say we should do this more often, but we should do this more often.
Yeah, we could definitely do more of a kind of a podcast style, kind of like this. I like this. This is good. People need to hear about what's going on up there, and nobody has a better front row seat. I mean, I see a lot. I've seen a lot. We've been lobbying up there for almost a decade now. But you've seen things and you see things being a state representative that people need to hear about. So people have all the facts, all the information, who the players are, what the bills are, and give it to them firsthand. So we'll definitely be
Yeah.
doing this again in the very near future, I think.
Cool. All righty. Well,
So,
thanks.
all right, guys, thank you all so much for coming on here tonight. Do me a favor, if you would, press the share button on this video, share with your family, your friends, drop in some of the Facebook groups. I know you're in all those freedom groups all across the state. I know you are. So drop them in there. Let people hear what's going on. And when you hear the rhinos and when you hear the Democrats, when you hear them whining and complaining about Minnesota gun rights, meanies, and Erik Mortensen doesn't play nice, recognize you're talking to a beta bitch. And those people aren't fighting for you. They're up there to maintain their status with the politicians. They're up there to maintain. I mean, they live to wear that little legislator pin, on their jacket. Some of these people, Erik, like you said, you were a business owner. You had a lot of things going on before you ever decided to run for office. You didn't need to do this. You didn't need to go
Yeah,
into politics.
I
You
told
didn't.
you this last time. So check this out. Where is it? Where are you? I don't even know where it is. I don't have my legislator pin.
You lost it.
I never even took it out of the box. I go to the floor every day. I've never put it on. And the sergeant of arms a couple weeks ago said, looks like you don't have one of these things. And he gave me a second one of them that's now sitting in my desk drawer in St. Paul.
That's bizarre. But that's where we are with this stuff, and we're gonna keep fighting for these things. Got to keep pushing this stuff. And when your politicians complain and whine, just tell them, be quiet, fight harder. Just be quiet and fight. Don't tell me how great you are. Don't tell me what the wonderful things you've done. Don't tell me that stuff. Just fight harder for me and do something tangible that actually makes a difference. And that's why, the best people actually who go into politics, like you've done, Erik, are people who were kind of successful in their own right. You had a business, a wife, beautiful children. You didn't need to go into politics. It's the people who go into politics who run for office because they got nothing else going on in their lives, and they just thought they'd be a part of some good old boys club. And I just want to be up there. Those are the people. Just stay away. We've seen too many of those people go up there and they get blinded by the shining lights because they had no personal self-worth to begin with. And that's a sad reality. So we were happy when you ran, and I'm very grateful for all the work you're doing up there. So all right, guys, thank you so much again for joining. We're going to hop off right now. Share this video with your family and friends. Tune back in. We have a lot more to talk about in the days ahead. Representative will have you back on here very, very soon, and we'll keep letting people know what's going on. Pound on your legislators. It's election season. It's the time when they're most likely to listen to you. Tell them what you want. Don't be afraid to get in their faces. Demand better from your representatives, your senators, and let's keep fighting to make Minnesota free. So, all right, guys, have a good night. Catch you later.